Capricorn, this message is not reaching you by chance. The upcoming blood moon on March 3rd, 2026 is one of those rare cosmic events that quietly separates before and after in a person's life. You may not feel its full impact in a single moment, but once it passes, you will look back and realize something fundamental shifted inside you. This is not a dramatic prediction meant to scare you. It's a warning wrapped in preparation. The universe doesn't shake strong people without reason, and Capricorns are among the strongest. If you're a Capricorn, comment Capricorn rising below so you consciously align yourself with this energy. And make sure you stay with me until the end of this video, because step by step, I'm going to explain exactly what this blood moon means for you, why it's happening now, and how you can move through it with clarity instead of confusion. Before we dive deep, if you find this video informative, make sure to subscribe my channel and hit the like button so you never miss more Capricorn insights. Now let's begin. On March 3rd, 2026, a total lunar eclipse will occur, turning the moon a deep red as the Earth fully blocks the sun's light. This phenomenon, known as a blood moon, has been observed for thousands of years. Ancient civilizations didn't fear it because it looked unusual. They respected it because patterns followed it. Wars ended, leaders fell, truths surfaced, and personal destinies changed direction. In astrology, eclipses act like fast-forward buttons. They compress lessons that would normally take years into weeks or months. And because this is the only total blood moon of 2026, its influence is concentrated, intense, and personal. Capricorn, your zodiac sign is ruled by Saturn, the planet of responsibility, time, karma, and structure. Saturn does not reward shortcuts. It rewards endurance, honesty, and maturity. For the last few years, you may have felt like progress required more effort than it should. You carried responsibility while others escaped it. You stayed disciplined while others took risks. If you ever wondered why life felt so heavy, the answer is simple: you were being trained. And March 3rd, 2026 is the moment where training turns into application. There is an important scientific truth many people overlook. The moon controls the tides of the ocean, and the human body is made mostly of water. That's why emotions rise during full moons and intensify during eclipses. During a blood moon, the subconscious becomes louder. Thoughts you pushed aside return. Feelings you ignored demand acknowledgement. Capricorn, you are known for emotional restraint. You don't panic easily. You don't react impulsively. But this eclipse does not care about control. It cares about truth. Around early 2026, another massive shift occurs in the background. Neptune moves into Aries, beginning a long cycle of identity awakening, courage, and authenticity. Neptune dissolves illusions. Aries demands action. When these energies combine with a blood moon, denial becomes impossible. Capricorn, you may suddenly realize that certain goals you're chasing no longer belong to the person you're becoming, or that you've been loyal to responsibilities that were never meant to last forever. Career and purpose will become unavoidable themes for you during this blood moon. What once felt comfortable may suddenly feel restrictive, and routines you relied on for years may begin to feel empty or misaligned. This doesn't mean you chose the wrong path. It means that path has already served its purpose. Growth often begins with discomfort, and for Capricorn, that discomfort is usually the first sign that you've outgrown a version of your life that once made sense. You may notice a quiet restlessness building inside you. Tasks that never bothered you before might start draining your energy. Goals that once motivated you may feel strangely uninspiring. This is not laziness, and it's not failure. It's evolution. You are changing internally, and your external life is struggling to keep up. The blood moon doesn't create this tension, it reveals it. For some Capricorns, this eclipse awakens a strong pull toward leadership or independence. You may feel ready to step forward, speak up, or take ownership in ways you previously avoided. This could mean wanting more authority, more creative control, or simply more recognition for the responsibility you already carry. You may realize that you've been doing the work of a leader without allowing yourself to fully claim that role. Others may experience the opposite realization, that in order to maintain stability, you've been shrinking yourself, playing safe, staying quiet, saying yes when you wanted to say no. The blood moon shines a light on these compromises and asks an uncomfortable but necessary question: at what cost? Stability should support your growth, not limit it. What's important to understand is that this eclipse doesn't rush you into reckless decisions. It doesn't push you to quit overnight or burn bridges. Instead, it removes confusion. It strips away excuses, denial, and emotional fog. Suddenly, you see things clearly: what works, what doesn't, and what can no longer be ignored. And once confusion disappears, action becomes inevitable. Not impulsive action, but grounded, intentional movement. Capricorn, you don't leap blindly. You move when you're certain. This blood moon helps you reach that certainty. After this eclipse, even small career decisions may feel heavier, more meaningful, because they are aligned with who you're becoming rather than who you used to be. Emotionally, this blood moon places your relationships under a quiet but powerful examination. Nothing explodes on the surface, yet everything becomes clearer beneath it. Capricorn, you are one of the most loyal signs of the zodiac. When you commit to someone, you commit deeply and for the long term. But this eclipse gently reveals an important truth. Loyalty without balance slowly turns into self-sacrifice, and self-sacrifice eventually leads to emotional exhaustion. This period asks you to observe rather than accuse. There is no need for confrontation or dramatic conclusions. Instead, you are invited to notice patterns. Who genuinely supports your growth when you're evolving? Who encourages your independence rather than depending on your silence? And who seems comfortable only when you carry the emotional weight for everyone else? These realizations may arrive quietly, through small moments, rather than through arguments. You may also become more aware of how your boundaries are treated. Capricorn, you often set boundaries internally but don't always express them clearly, especially if you fear disrupting stability. The blood moon highlights where your boundaries are respected and where they are quietly crossed. This awareness may create emotional distance, but that distance is not punishment, it is protection. Some relationships may feel different without anyone doing anything wrong. Conversations may become shorter. Energy may feel uneven. You may stop explaining yourself as much. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. You're no longer forcing connection where alignment has naturally faded. It's important to understand that this eclipse does not signify abandonment or loss. It signifies correction. Alignment is being restored in your emotional life. The relationships meant to grow with you will adjust and deepen. The ones that cannot evolve will gently fall out of rhythm. Capricorn, this is not failure, it is emotional maturity. By the time this blood moon passes, you may feel lighter without fully knowing why. That lightness comes from releasing emotional responsibility that was never meant to be carried alone. And in that space, healthier, more balanced connections can finally enter. There is a quote that fits this moment perfectly. The truth will set you free, but first it will disrupt everything. Blood moons don't whisper truths, they reveal them plainly. But what is revealed is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to liberate you from patterns that no longer serve your future. This eclipse begins a powerful release cycle, one that doesn't arrive with chaos or destruction, but with quiet realizations that gently, and sometimes firmly, ask you to let go. Capricorn, this is not a dramatic ending phase. It's a pruning phase, the kind where you finally recognize that some things you've been carrying no longer serve a purpose, even if they once did. Old fears may surface now, not to scare you, but to show you how much you've already outgrown them. These are fears that once protected you. Fears of instability, of failure, of disappointing others, of losing control. At one time, they kept you focused, disciplined, and alert. They helped you build structure in uncertain terrain. But now, under this eclipse, you may feel how heavy they've become. What once acted as armor now feels restrictive. What once motivated you now drains you. This is a sign of growth, not weakness. Alongside fear, outdated obligations may begin to feel increasingly uncomfortable. Responsibilities you accepted years ago, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of loyalty, sometimes out of guilt, may suddenly feel misaligned with who you are today. You may ask yourself, why am I still carrying this? Who am I doing this for? And more importantly, what would happen if I stopped? Capricorn, you are not someone who walks away easily. You don't quit when things get hard. You don't abandon commitments on a whim. That's precisely why this eclipse is so meaningful for you. It's not asking you to quit, it's asking you to refine. And refinement is growth at its highest level. Refinement means choosing better, not doing less out of laziness, but doing less with intention. It means recognizing that strength isn't measured by how much you can endure, but by how wisely you allocate your energy. You may feel a strong pull now to simplify your life, to clear clutter, reduce noise, and eliminate emotional and mental distractions that have quietly accumulated over time. This simplification may show up in subtle ways. You might feel less interested in maintaining appearances or meeting expectations that no longer align with your inner values. You may find yourself declining invitations without over-explaining. You may start setting firmer boundaries around your time, your work, and your emotional availability, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. This eclipse also invites you to redefine what success truly means. For much of your life, success may have been tied to external markers: stability, achievement, recognition, financial security, reliability. And while these will always matter to you, something deeper is emerging now. You may begin to question whether the path you've been climbing still leads where you want to go, or whether it's simply familiar. Success now asks a quieter question: does this support the life I want to live, or only the life I was taught to build? Protecting your energy becomes a priority during this cycle. You may realize that not every battle is worth fighting, not every opportunity deserves a yes, and not every problem is yours to solve. This is a profound shift for you. You're learning that conservation of energy is not avoidance, it's strategy. Financial awareness sharpens significantly during this period. With Saturn's steady influence, you're supported in long-term planning rather than impulsive risk. This is not a time for shortcuts or quick wins. Instead, it's a moment of sober clarity, where you can see your financial landscape more honestly than before. The blood moon may illuminate areas where your effort has been undervalued, whether in work, business, or even personal exchanges where money and energy intersect. You might realize that you've been giving more than you're receiving, not just financially, but energetically, or that certain investments of time, labor, or trust have not yielded the return they promised. This awareness may sting briefly, but it's not meant to discourage you. It's meant to empower you. You are being shown where your resources are leaking and where they need stronger boundaries. You may feel compelled to renegotiate terms, restructure budgets, or reassess financial commitments that no longer feel sustainable. This doesn't necessarily mean dramatic cuts or losses. It means smarter alignment. Importantly, this is not a loss cycle. It's a recalibration. Anything that falls away now does so because it was already unstable or misaligned. Anything that remains has the potential to become stronger, more efficient, and more supportive of your long-term goals. Think of this period as fine-tuning the engine rather than abandoning the journey. Saturn's presence ensures that decisions made during this time carry weight, but also durability. You're not being rushed. You're being guided to make choices that will still make sense years from now. This is especially important when it comes to commitments involving finances, career direction, or long-term security. Pay attention to what becomes clear after March 3rd, 2026. Insights may arrive quietly, through a conversation, a realization, or a moment of exhaustion that finally forces honesty. You may suddenly see a path forward that wasn't visible before, not because it appeared out of nowhere, but because distractions finally cleared. Decisions made after this point may not feel dramatic in the moment, but they have the potential to shape the next decade of your life. This includes choices about where you invest your time, who you collaborate with, and how you define stability for yourself moving forward. You may choose slower growth over faster burnout, sustainable progress over constant pressure, meaning over mere momentum. Capricorn, this eclipse is not here to test you. It's here to reward your maturity. You've already done the hard part. You've learned discipline, patience, endurance. Now you're learning discernment, knowing when to push and when to pause, knowing when to build and when to release, knowing that refinement doesn't make your path smaller, it makes it stronger. As this cycle unfolds, trust what feels lighter. Trust what feels honest. Trust the quiet sense of alignment that replaces force. You are not losing anything essential. You are shedding what no longer belongs to the future you're stepping into. And that future? It's steadier, wiser, and far more intentional than anything you've built before. Here's a light truth that only Capricorns truly understand. You can experience a life-changing eclipse and still ask, How does this fit into my long-term plan? And the answer is simple. Alignment always makes life more efficient, not less. Spiritually, intuition becomes stronger. Dreams may feel vivid. Repeating thoughts, symbols, or memories may appear. These are not distractions. They are signals. The universe often speaks softly, but during a blood moon, it repeats itself until you listen. Preparation for this eclipse is not complicated, and that is exactly why it is so powerful. Capricorn, you don't need elaborate rituals, extreme actions, or dramatic declarations to work with this energy. In fact, the more quietly and intentionally you move, the more clearly this eclipse will speak to you. The blood moon on March 3rd, 2026 does not demand urgency, it rewards awareness. The first and most important step is to slow down in the days surrounding the eclipse. This may sound simple, but for you, slowing down is often the hardest thing to do. You are wired to keep moving, to stay productive, to remain useful. Yet this eclipse asks you to temporarily step out of constant doing and into conscious observing. Not everything needs an immediate response. Not every feeling needs to be fixed. Some things simply need to be witnessed. When you slow down, you create space, and space is where clarity lives. In the days before and after March 3rd, you may notice emotional reactions rising more quickly than usual. Small things might irritate you. Certain conversations may linger in your mind longer than expected. You might feel unusually tired, reflective, or inward-focused. None of this is a problem. It's information. The eclipse is gently highlighting areas of your life that have been operating on autopilot. Instead of judging these reactions, observe them without labeling them as good or bad. Ask yourself simple, honest questions. Why did that affect me so strongly? What belief or expectation was touched? What fear or need is being exposed here? You don't need immediate answers. Awareness alone begins the release process. Capricorn, you are often hardest on yourself. This eclipse asks you to drop self-criticism and replace it with curiosity. You are not failing because something feels heavy. You are evolving because you can finally feel it. One of the most effective tools during this period is writing, not for productivity, but for clarity. Write down what drains you. Be specific. Is it a responsibility, a relationship dynamic, a habit, a thought pattern, or a constant expectation you place on yourself? Notice how your body feels when you think about these things. Tension, resistance, fatigue. These are signals, not weaknesses. Then write down what energizes you. Again, be honest. What leaves you feeling steady instead of depleted? What activities, people, or moments restore your sense of self? What makes you feel quietly confident rather than pressure to perform? The contrast between these two lists reveals your truth more clearly than any external advice ever could. You may be surprised by what appears on the page. Some things you assumed were just part of life may now feel unnecessary. Some sources of stress you once tolerated may no longer feel acceptable. And some sources of joy you minimized may suddenly feel essential. This realization is not meant to destabilize you. It's meant to realign you. Release during this eclipse should be intentional, not emotional. Capricorn, you don't benefit from impulsive decisions driven by temporary feelings. This is not about cutting ties in anger or making dramatic exits. It's about quiet detachment from what no longer fits. You may release through reflection, prayer, meditation, or simply sitting in stillness and allowing truth to surface without forcing it. Prayer during this time doesn't need to ask for answers. It can ask for honesty, for the courage to see things as they are, not as they were or as you hoped they would be. Reflection doesn't require overthinking, it requires presence. Quiet awareness doesn't demand effort, it requires trust. As clarity begins to arrive, it may not come as a sudden revelation. More often, it shows up as a steady knowing, a sense that something is complete, a realization that a chapter has served its purpose, a calm understanding that continuing as you are would require betraying your own growth. And this is where the eclipse delivers its most important instruction. Once clarity arrives, do not betray it. Capricorn, you have a tendency to override your inner truth for the sake of responsibility, stability, or loyalty. You may understand what needs to change, yet delay it because others depend on you, or because change feels inconvenient. This eclipse asks you to honor what you know, not recklessly, but respectfully. Betraying clarity doesn't always look like saying yes when you want to say no. Sometimes it looks like postponing necessary conversations, staying in situations that drain you because they feel familiar, ignoring your intuition because logic demands patience. But intuition and wisdom are not enemies. They are partners. This eclipse helps them finally speak the same language. Preparation also means respecting your physical limits. Rest when you need to. Eat simply. Reduce overstimulation. Capricorn energy thrives when the nervous system feels regulated. The quieter your environment, the louder your intuition becomes. You don't need isolation, you need intention. Notice what you are being asked to release gently, rather than what you feel pressured to forcefully remove. The eclipse works subtly. It loosens your grip on what you've outgrown so you don't have to tear it away. Trust that process. As you move through this period, remind yourself that clarity does not demand perfection. You are allowed to take time. You are allowed to adjust gradually. You are allowed to change your mind as new information appears. What matters is that you no longer lie to yourself about what feels aligned and what does not. Capricorn, this eclipse is not testing your strength. It is honoring your wisdom. You've earned the right to live with more intention, more balance, and less unnecessary weight. Preparation is simply your willingness to listen, to slow down, and to respect what your inner voice has been trying to say for a long time. By doing so, you don't just move through the eclipse, you move forward with it. Capricorn, you are not behind. You are not stuck. You are not failing. You are standing at the edge of a transition designed to strengthen your foundation, not remove it. The blood moon of March 3rd, 2026 does not take stability from your life. It removes what blocks your growth. As the red shadow fades from the moon, something else fades too, doubt. What remains is clarity, direction, and inner authority. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. If this message resonated with you, comment Capricorn Rising and claim this transformation. Stay aware, stay aligned, because this blood moon is not the end of a chapter. It is the beginning of a stronger one.